If you want to be able to buy the most expensive players and open the best packs in FC24, go to u7buy.com to buy your EA FC24 coins. It's cheaper than buying FC points and just as reliable. With their already amazing prices, you can get an extra 6% using promo code Inception at checkout. Okay guys, so we just finished doing the review for the Timo Werner, so if you guys want to check out that video, be sure to do so. I think there's also the tier list that we have to do for the midfielders because people want that as well, so we can definitely check that out. I don't think any of these cards are like top tier S tiers, but we'll take a look at them afterwards. Okay, so this one is the Pick It Up evolution. This is just stat improvements, right? So these ones are going to be for cards that you can obviously currently chain Evo, and then obviously it's gonna be for cards that, you know, maybe you've already Evo'd before, and then you can get some nice upgrades afterwards, right? So shout out to Easy SBC, because there was actually a feature that I asked from them to be able to chain evolutions based off of what we currently have, right? So for people that are just getting into the game and they want to get certain cards up until a certain point, you can now Pick It Up and actually put a chained evolution on him, right? If you take this out and just put the only selected, you'll be able to see that too, right? So if you go to like FS Glow Up, right, you're only going to see FS Glow Up. If you do like all of these, you know, obviously you'll be able to get like more chained if it gets to that point. I think FS Glow Up doesn't allow it, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? You'll have more. Well, from these selections you can't see. That's me being stupid, but it doesn't matter if I do this, honestly, because the key thing here is the fact that they now have the change parts, right? So you can now see what the current best options are if you don't have certain players, right? So instead of, for instance, if you go to Footbin and you go to a card like Wirtz, you can see that his top over here is a 91, but you can also see that the 92 is over here too, because that one is currently available. So you can currently go here. If there's new evolutions that you want to pick up, there's, you know, sentimental cards you want to go for, then obviously go for them over here, because there's going to be a few options, right? But a few different ones that we have here is obviously this Patry card. No female player, and get some pretty decent improvements on the card. Actually well formatted, to be honest with you, except for the dribbling department, because she does have a lower agility compared to the other dribbling stats that she has. She's still pretty well formatted, right? She has really good pace stats, defensive stats are there. She has shooting, passing, little bit of physical, not a lot, right? But obviously for the link ups you could potentially work with, she doesn't look that bad, right? You would have to work with the agility regardless of her being a female. Maybe if she was like a little bit smaller, you'd probably not notice it that much, but she still looks like a pretty decent option for people that want to get an easier link with some of the Barcelona players. I have used this card that does exist, and she was okay to use, right? And she's 470k, right? Very, very expensive card to use during that time period. There was a time period I was doing reviews where I had her in the midfield with Alexia Putellas, and it was fun. It was fun to use them, but obviously they're shorter players, so some situations it would be nice to have a taller player, but it'd still be a pretty interesting card, right? Obviously, with the improvements, it looks pretty decent. It's a free version of her card, so you would just get the 88. That's why this version went down quite a bit. Even though we do have to mention, there is a stat difference, right? Between, not that one, this one here, right? There is a stat difference between them in certain areas, right? So the blue one obviously doesn't have as much pace, but she's better at everything else. And honestly, I'd rather use the blue one to be better at everything else, right, at this point in the game. But again, for a free version compared to the one that's on the transfer market, you can't go wrong with that, right? Manchester United fans will be very happy about something like this, right? Irene Guerrero. If you put her into high visibility, Team of the Year Unsung Hero, Pick It Up, puts her in a pretty significant area, right? So obviously with her, again, a very similar situation to the Barcelona player where her agility is on the lower side. But if you give her a shadow chemistry style to improve the defense and pace, she still looks like a midfielder that can be used in most people's teams, right? If you use her in like a 4-3-3 setup, she could be decent in that area, obviously. Passing play styles are obviously there, right? Long ball pass, pings pass, anticipate. So for people that are working with some Manchester United links, can't really go wrong with that one, right? Lucas Paqueta finally gets another improvement from the Centurions attacking mid. Honestly, I still don't think this is the most ideal thing. Oh, yeah, well, to be fair, the upgrade on this one's actually pretty significant. It's significant, but they don't touch the defending. The defending is very key for him on this card. He's a high work rated card, 5-star, 5-star. That's obviously very, very nice. But the main improvements that they gave him in comparison was pace, which, to be fair, is a really, really big deal. But that's like the main one. It's the pace area. I mean, to be fair, with Lucas Paqueta, if you improve the pace on the card and then at some point in the future they drop some crazy evolution where you can improve the defense, then obviously that would be a really, really huge deal, right? As of right now, he's still formatted in a lower area for certain areas of the card, but I mean, hey, you can't really go wrong with him as of right now. As a 5-star, 5-star player, he has very good play styles to work with. If you use him as your attacking-oriented center mid, I don't see him being that big of an issue to work with in a team, right? Because his pace is actually quite up there, right? And from an evolution from Centurion's attacking mid into this, I mean, Centurion's attacking mid, you guys know, we had some pretty crazy choices here. It doesn't show, but you guys know some of the choices that came up for that one. Players, is that how we show it? No, well, we can't go popular because I'm not going to show the whole thing yet, but you guys get the point. Lucas Paqueta, pace boost. Obviously, a pace boost is definitely very nice. This one is an interesting one because Wirtz has the improvements from the player of the month into this one. To be fair, for the meta of the game, it's still low because the dribbling is in the 80s area. I'm sorry to say, but it has to be the 90s at this point in the game, right? Playstyles wise, the card obviously has some pretty decent playstyles, but there is also a version of this card where you can currently chain him into a 92, right? So if you use him in FS Strike Force training into pick it up, you can actually make him a little bit better in certain areas while working with 2 playstyle pluses, right? So that's the key thing for this Wirtz card, right? But the thing about Wirtz is that you can also compare this card to the other one because at the end of the day, you also have the player of the month on this one, right? So if it's this one, you go to evolutions, the highest is going to be that 92 from the pick it up from FS Strike Force into pick it up, and you have something kind of crazy to work with there. Obviously, not crazy. I'm not going to use the word crazy because the dribbling still needs to be improved by a little bit, but it's just an option that you can obviously go with, right? So not too bad there. Some other options here. Silva. Oh, excuse me. Oh. All right, so Silva's another one. So if we take a look at Silva's card, right? So let's just go to Silva. For pick it up, you can see that that is the only version of the card from the base. So this is going to be for people that are just getting into the game, probably, give them a Hunter chemistry style card that has decent dribbling, but at this point, a little bit outdated, obviously, right? You would have to get like I think with Bernardo, they have like the Thunderstruck, right? I haven't seen those upgrades afterwards, but since that card exists, might be worth looking into that a little bit more. Now, main thing here is obviously like he gives a pace boost, but you kind of need another evolution in the future that you don't know what happened. This is a really good pace boost. This is one worth looking into at this point now, right? Well, not worth looking into because you had to do this in the beginning, right? But if you did Welcome to Evolutions on Philippe Coutinho, Pacey Winger 2, Wing Wizard, pick it up, you're kind of getting him to a spot where he could be pretty decent, right? Now, obviously, a very, very strangely formatted card, right? Very, very strangely formatted. He has really high acceleration, but then very low sprint speed. So he needs another pace boost for that sprint speed to be significantly higher while also working with good shooting, right? So you could have obviously gone in this direction for sure, but it's still going to be an outdated card in a sense, right? Mahrez now turns into a 90 rated, a +4 on him, which obviously is very nice. This improvement is pretty significant for him because obviously his pace by default is very, very low. So you can give him a Hunter chemistry style at this point to increase the shooting of the card, right? So if you give him the pace boost, the shooting boost, you put him at a pretty decent area as well. For people that are working with the Saudi League links and don't have the means of getting this version of the card, which is this much by a stat difference, right? So dribbling is a little bit better on that one, but then the pace is better on this one. So for people who want to use Mahrez as of right now for a free evolution, then obviously this is going to be their chance to get him, right? That's going to be a little bit better to use nowadays. James Madison gets a new card. Obviously better than this version, the triple threat version of his card, who was apparently extinct, I guess, because of the SBCs and stuff. But Madison, from the Player of the Month, gets the Pick It Up version. This card in the cam position actually has some very nice proper attacking AI. But at this point in the game, the dribbling is on the lower side. You'd probably have to work with that a little bit more, considering it is in the mid 80s area. But he is one of the cards that plays in the cam position really, really well. He definitely has that proper attacking AI that I personally enjoy using a lot. Odegaard has a card, so obviously if you did the SBC version, the SBC version is still kind of cooking at this point. You know, obviously some pretty significant improvements there, but a free version of Odegaard, you can't really go wrong with either. This version over here is a 5-star, 3-star, so obviously the 3-star weak foot's a little bit better to work with in regards to that comparison, but yeah, card has a little bit of defensive stats too. Wouldn't be horrible to go in that direction if you think he's going to get anything in the future. Çalhanoğlu gets the center mid CDM position changes. This card for the Inter Milan fans is looking like a W, but this card now exists on the market as well. And to be fair, he does have better dribbling capabilities, which I think is probably a bigger deal to work with. Not probably, it just is a bigger deal to work with, right? So if you are an Inter fan, I feel like it's best to try to get this card as much as possible, right? Yeah, let's see what else we got here. So Çalhanoğlu there. We have Wirtz as the other version. Pick it up. Çalhanoğlu, Dani Olmo. Dani Olmo is like one of the cards that shows up first. Okay, so he was from the fire one. The fire one, 89 dribbling. It's still on the lower side in certain areas. I mean, technically speaking, you could give him a finisher and his usability would be there because his acceleration is at a 99, but it's kind of funny, man. It's like a similar situation to the Coutinho card, right? Like really high acceleration, but very low sprint speed. And at this point in the game, the meta, it's very important to have both of them. He's a very interesting card when it comes to how he's formatted, because technically speaking, as the attacking oriented center mid, he could be decent there, right? Because medium high work rates as well is a little bit strange to work with, but it could be okay. What else do we have here? Pedri. So Pedri does have this card, who's, I think it's like 1 million coins, but at this point in the game, if you are going to use a Pedri, it has to be something like this for him to be significantly more usable in the game. That version is going to be a little bit outdated. Maybe he gets something in the future, but who knows, obviously. Di Maria gets a card from the rare gold, so nothing from the Champions League version of his card just yet. But this version of his card does get the 87 upgrade. In comparison to the Champions League card, it's not as significant, right? So you would have to, I mean, listen, it gives him the pace boost, which is obviously nice, but you'd have to rely on evolutions in the future for him to be really, really nice, right? And then I think most of the other cards here are going to be insanely sentimental for the most part. Like the pace boost is really good, so obviously try to go in the sentimental route as much as possible. It's definitely going to be the main ideal thing, right? Let me see what's in the thumbnail here. So there's Brandt, there's Patry. Yeah, Brandt is not even worth looking into though. It's gonna be a little bit of an older card, I would say. So this one, again, guys, if you want to see the chained evolutions, you would just check it out here, right? For some of the cards that you might like. Edouard actually gets a pretty significant improvement. That's his best version, actually, right? So if you're a Crystal Palace fan and you never got this card before, then obviously you can get this card now, right? Some pretty significant improvements on him. This is giving him a finisher right away, which I'm not completely against because of the finishing boost, but yeah. 5-star skill moves, 4-star weak foot's looking cool. You have players like Alexis Sanchez that you could put into Pick It Up and FS Strike Force training afterwards. 89 for dribbling. Jovic. By the ways, man, let's talk about Jovic here for a second. Super happy to see this guy back on the score sheet, eh? He's actually doing really well for AC Milan, scoring some goals for them. So good for him, man. Very, very happy for him. But yeah, as I mentioned, there's a couple of evolutions that you can do if you haven't done them yet. Like Divock Origi, obviously, Pick It Up from before. We have Rodriguez down there. Right? This is the best case scenario for like the sentimental guys. Because if it was like for me, for instance, right, I would go to filters and I would check out the Portuguese country here, right? And check out what we have here, right? So we have some female players. Ron Mario gets one as well. Daniel Podence gets a card, pick it up into FS Strike Force or Strike Force Training. Fabio Silva gets a pretty significant improvement, right? 5-star, 3-star on that card. PZ, Shermiti gets one. So yeah, if you're going in the relative sentimental, there are a few cards you can obviously get. Nani Evolutions might not be a horrible decision if you think that he'll get significant improvements in the future, because to be fair, a pace boost on this card was very, very necessary. I mean, he has the radioactive card that you could technically still use nowadays, but yeah, it's going to be ideal to look at some of these guys and see who you can potentially upgrade. Again, with evolutions, you should go more into the sentimental realm for cards that you truly believe will not get any sort of cards in the future, because it's going to be more fun to use them at some point, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Not really much to talk about in regards to like some top tier meta cards, right? Otherwise, they would show up in first place in comparison to some of the cards that are here. But yeah, fantasy starting off pretty decently. We have a bunch of cards that look very, very interesting for the most part. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video today, and I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.